The night is dark and full of terrors.
What if the Reynes rebelled during the War of the Five Kings? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. Special thanks to Henry for suggesting this idea.
They have my son! Get out, all of you. Not you.
As he leaves, Olyvar Reyne catches this and glances back. He finds Tyrion looking around awkwardly before waddling back to his seat and propping himself back onto a chair. The young lord raises an eyebrow, but that is just the latest of many surprises that happened this day. He says nothing and hastens to depart before his lingering is noticed. Rather than return to his tent, he instead makes his way over towards his cousin, Lady Amarei Tarbeck, who, along with her brother Densy, commands the Tarbeck contingent.
It has been a rather curious past few days, hasn't it, cuz? Curious is an interesting way of putting it. This is madness. Utter madness. Just a fortnight ago, we were on the verge of total victory in this war, and yet this dog, this young wolf, has upset everything.
Yes, he certainly has. First he breaks our siege in River Run, and now he is Sir Jaime. Meanwhile, what do we have? A young daughter who just marked herself a Lannister sympathizer.
If this boy has half the sense in politics that he has in the war, he will never trade her. And what will that leave us? I don't know. But the Lannisters have found themselves in a desperate position.
It is easy. For the first time, Lord Tywin has found someone he cannot simply bully into submission. Not unlike our grandparents. How many years ago? The two cousins fall silent, as they know the history quite well. Before the time of Lord Tywin, his father ruled, and he was far more kitten than lion, or so they said. Their houses had prospered during that time, until Lord Tywin returned and put an end to their freeloading. It was said that Olyvar's granduncle had attempted to resist and forced Lord Tyros to release Walderland Tarbeck after Tywin had imprisoned him. That incident had nearly resulted in their houses going to war. Olyvar heard his father, Roger Reyne, wanted to do just that, but he was talked out of it by his brother Renard. Instead, he opted to bide their time until the time came to regain their power. If one weak Lannister was all it took, they would wait for that time. And now, only weak Lannisters remain, save for Tywin. Even his son Tyrion lacks the authority to lead, despite his intellect. Olyvar and Amarei both recognize that the court is weak and corrupt. Now the Lannisters find themselves facing off not only against the Starks, but also the Baratheons as well. And though neither of them says it, the odds are not looking good. So they say nothing, but instead begin sending secret letters out before their army prepares to depart. In River Run, the Starks are starting to prepare their next move. Tywin moves his army south to station his army in Harrenhal while he plans his next move. This leaves him cut off from the rest of the Westerlands, but also halfway between Castle Rock and King's Landing. Robb realizes that the only way he can win this battle is by drawing Tywin out from Harrenhal by attacking the Westerlands. He begins planning to ride out with his contingent while keeping the rest of his army in the Riverlands to move when the opportunity arises. However, before he can march out, the Maester stumbles and brings forth the letter.
A letter from Lord Tywin's vassals. It seems like his bannermen are not as loyal as they might think.
What has happened?
Houses Reyne and Tarbeck are offering to support us if we are to invade the Westerlands.
They promise men.
Not just that. They say that many of these lesser houses will join them. The Reynes are an influential house. They are rich, and Tywin has always favored those who can provide the most. Smaller houses like the Westerlands, Greenfields, and Surrets are just a few among those who will rise up against him.
That is a bold claim. If this is true, it will be a great boon to our side. Yet how can we be sure that they will support us?
How sure are we they can be trusted? They're just lions with a different coat. How can we be sure that they won't rake their claws across our backs once it's turned? Aye, they've already started losing. This could be their ploy. It wouldn't be the first time Tywin used deception to win a battle. Because they have every reason to hate Lord Tywin. He is an unpleasant man to have as a foe. You think he will be much better as your overlord? Because they are also requesting something in return, Mother. The letter says that in exchange for their support, they ask that we support their claim as Lord Paramount of the West, to show that we are willing to support them.
They've given us a list of prisoners they wish for us to release as a gesture of goodwill.
An ambitious plan, and can men capable of such deception be trusted with their word? How certain are we that they won't simply betray us when the time comes? This is quite different from declaring independence, Rob. Now you are truly meddling in southern politics, and I doubt any king who comes out on top will be pleased.
That may be so, but the opportunity they are providing here is too good to pass up. A handful of lesser lords is a fair price to pay. Besides, you said it yourself, we cannot defeat Lord Tywin on his own. Some southern support for our independence can go a long way.
Soon enough, Lord Gawain Westerling and Quinton Baneforth are ransomed back, being secretly sent back to their keeps in the Westerlands. As soon as Dennis, Amarei, and Olyvar get word of this, both of them make their move. With Robb's recent success, Tywin orders his cousin, Sir Stafford Lannister, to begin raising a third host to reinforce them. He issues a call to arms from all houses in the west to send troops, and yet he finds this more difficult than anticipated. The Tarbecks, Reynes, and their allies are simultaneously refusing to send their soldiers, proclaiming the Lannisters unfit to rule. Suddenly, there is a rebellion in the core of Tywin's territory, and this hasty assembled army of Sir Stafford is sent fleeing in all directions, as they lack the strength to challenge their rebels, who begin strengthening their castles and assembling a force of 3,000 men. These soldiers begin raiding the countryside of their rivals, seizing territory and attacking Lannister holdings. Tywin is stunned by this, but quickly recovers his wits and curses the Reynes and Tarbecks as traitors. He orders their arrest, but both cousins and their forces have slipped out of the camp during the march. That is, nearly 2,000 men gone as they ride back as well. He wants to chase after them, but recognizes the importance of remaining in the Riverlands. He instead orders Sir Forley Prester to crush this rebellion, and sends Sir Arden Marbrand and Harris Swift to join him. With the force numbering nearly 10,000 men, they could overwhelm the Reyne rebels. The forces soon corner them in the central Westerlands, but then there is chaos in the Golden Tooth, as Sir Stafford's army, whatever's left of it, is wiped out as Robb ambushes it at Oxcross and bursts into the Westerlands, throwing this war into further confusion. With the rebels drawing attention to them, Robb was able to reinforce his army further, as he now brings another 8,000 men, which includes sellswords, a few rivermen, and additional levies. Sir Adam rushes to meet them, hoping to hold them back until they can crush the rebels. However, as their best general leaves, the rebel lords rush to Harris Swift, whom they judge to be the weakest link. His men desperately try to form a defensive line and barely hold back. The first charge at Silverhill. When the second comes, they shatter completely and are slain by Gawain Westerling. Sir Forley manages to retreat in good order, fleeing to Case, yet here the town secretly rises up and kills him and his men as they retreat through their lands. Seeing this, Sir Adam opts to flee to Baneford and harass the army from the rear. However, the armies of the rebels and Northmen combined faster than expected, leaving no doubt that they had planned this. He soon finds himself surrounded and must surrender. With these 3 victories, more houses join the rebels, including the Presters and Sarsfields, and soon, half of the Westerlands now stand against Tywin. With more and more victories, other houses are emboldened as the River Lords begin launching raids along the lands of Harrenhal to try and probe his defenses. If this continues, it will only be a matter of time until they grind his forces down. Tywin recognizes this as well. While he initially sends his men to burn the Riverlands even further, this will not solve his more pressing issues in the Westerlands. So long as Robb stands there, he is building his foundation on shaky ground. He decides to return home with an additional 5,000 men, and leaves Kevin in charge of prosecuting the war. But it isn't just the mainlanders who see this. Soon enough, Theon returns to Seaguard with important news. The Greyjoys have agreed to their alliance. While Balon initially planned on betraying Robb, the young wolf's success on the battlefield convinced him that Tywin is no man to fear. Theon is sent to deliver Balon's terms. He demands that Robb recognize an independent Iron Islands, and that Fair Isle be ceded to him, along with whatever land he seizes. Lord Olyvar is less keen on losing territory, and will not compromise the integrity of the region he hopes to hold. Instead, he offers his own terms. He will let them keep whatever gold they seize, but all lands must be returned to House Reyne when the war is over. Amarei offers a compromise, suggesting that they support the Iron Islands in any conquest of the Reach. Eventually, terms are agreed to. And one thing they must cede is Fair Island, as Balon remains adamant about it. Soon, Amarei orders her ships to set sail and strike at the northern tip of the isle. This draws out the small defensive fleet of House Farman.
As they do that, Victarion leads an attack from open sea onto the island, driving its garrison back and seizing the castle. With a base near the coast, the Ironborn begin launching raids across the coastlands, filling their ships with gold as most of the men are further east and north, dealing with the rebels and Northmen. These reavers soon overwhelm the coastal defenders as lords struggle to send ships out since the Ironborn swiftly overwhelm their army. The one place that manages to hold back the invading armies is Lannisport, but while it stands as a bulwark, it is alone, and the Iron Fleet soon places it under siege. But as the war rages in the Westerlands, there are also movements in the south as Stannis finally sets sail. Rather than attacking King's Landing directly, he sails south into the Stormlands. This initially seems like a blessing for the Lannisters, as it might keep Renly distracted. However, the distraction does not last long, as Stannis soon removes Renly and Ser Courtenay, gaining Storm's End and a sizable portion of his brother's army. Now he has the means to seize King's Landing, but Lord Tywin is too far away to do anything. He returns to the Westerlands and begins retaking territory. He manages to rally the disparate army and intends to consolidate them to lead them into battle. His plan is to march to Deep Pan, but the Northmen steal a march on him as Great John Umber and Lord Sarsfield arrive at its gates a day before Tywin. Rather than try to hold out, House Liddens simply surrenders and joins the rebel army. Seeing this, Tywin tries to turn his army aside and look for another opening, but Great John Umber does not let him go and takes the vanguard to begin striking at their rear. The cavalrymen in Tywin's rearguard all hurry and turn to face the Northmen in a desperate charge. The field beneath them is turned into a churning storm of hooves and clashing lances as the two groups batter one another. The Northmen charge forward, but the fluid Lannister knights gallop through the open space, hitting them from the flank or rear to blunt their charge. Yet Great John Umber takes the lead, sweeping his great sword and knocking two men off their saddles. He lets out a mixture of a roar and a laugh as he barrels deeper into enemy lines, urging his riders to follow him. When the Westerman tries to strike at his flank, he pivots his entire force towards them, aiming to surround and devour them. Their captain is barely able to hold on and pulls back for fear of being overwhelmed. He sends urgent messages to Lord Tywin, begging for reinforcements as his men form a desperate defense. Soon, half of his men are dead, and many of those who remain are now on foot as their mounts are killed under them. But as Great John is about to circle around for the kill, horns blare from the front as a fresh troop of cavalry emerges. They bear banners of 3 baying dogs, and Lord Umber lets out a laugh. The mountain. Right on cue, the massive knight raises his greatsword high and sends the Great John reeling from the force of the blow. He laughs, and the two rush at each other again as their men clash all around them. For the first time, both men find that someone capable of meeting their blows throws themselves into the melee. The mountain continues to press forward, his blade raining down upon the Northman, trying to shatter his defenses. But while not as fast, Great John parries each blow while his muscles scream for him to stop. But while their duel seems even, the situation around them shifts as the mountain's arrival revitalizes the Lannister troops, and they drive back the Northmen. Soon, some riders circle the two and force Great John to divide his attention as he watches them wearily. Finally, the mountain manages to drive his sword into Lord Umber's horse and sends the Northman falling. He raises his sword to defend against a second attack, but then feels his movements too slow, and his left hand goes flying. Lord Umber howls in pain as his sword drops to his feet. Sir Gregor sees his chance and wheels around for another charge, but as the Great John lies bleeding on the ground, he finds a spear and then drives it into the mountain's charger. Blood bursts from the horse while the momentum carries him forward to the ground. As he lies there, Lord Umber spits and drives the spear into his throat. He shouts defiantly as the Lannister rearguard shatters with the death of their commander, yet this allows the rest of the forces to escape. As Tywin regroups, his army falls further into depression, as defeat after defeat saps their strength. Sir Gregor was just the latest to fall. His other terror captain, Sir Amarei, falls a few days earlier on a scouting mission to secure a holdfast. Lord Lefford tries to retreat back to the Golden Tooth, but rebel lords track him down with an ambush organized by Mark Piper, whose men are waiting for him. Even the brave companions desert Tywin. They cut down the Lannister men they were accompanying to search for Robb Stark and present their heads to the king. Among them is Titus Brax. Soon, both houses Brax and Lefford are forced to yield to Olyvar as his forces arrive and seize their castles. With his presence, Robb now offers his support and gives the Westermen a figure to rally around. While young, Olyvar also has the support of Amarei. whose forces remain largely untouched from the fighting, and who is a gifted warrior in her own right. Slowly but surely, it becomes clear that attempting to hold on to the Westerlands is folly. All his efforts to reclaim the Westerlands are only ending in failure. He realizes his only hope is to regroup with Kevin. He rushes back to the Golden Tooth, his army barely numbering 4,000, bloodied and exhausted Westermen. These are soldiers who either lost their lords, Tywin's most fanatic followers, or those who simply were too scared and fled. Yet they are demoralized and look ready to break at any moment, and when they reach the Golden Tooth, they find the castle closed off to them, as the new Lord Lefford announced that he can no longer support Lord Tywin in this war, and instead suggests that Tywin come to terms. Beyond, Piper and Vance men are fortifying the lands west of the Red Fork, so even if Tywin were to fight his way through, it would just bring him to a gauntlet of hill forts, blockades, and other defenses. To his rear, Robb and Olyvar reunite with Greatjohn's army, which now numbers close to 15,000 men. With his army trapped on both sides, Tywin simply orders a rocky bluff to be fortified as he grimly prepares for what shall happen next. Whatever else may happen, he will not allow his house to meekly surrender. At the foot of the hills, the army gathers.
Greetings, King Robb. It appears your growing reputation for military knowledge is not exaggerated. Neither are you, Lord Olyvar. Your plan was daring, especially with you and your forces so close to Lord Tywin's army. Daring is what brought our men to the cusp of victory. It won you your throne. Why should it not win mine? Still, do we really require these ironborn scum to accompany us? They are nothing more than glorified raiders. Watch your tongue. Those glorified raiders are what helped bring this region to heel. We can just as easily turn our ships against you. I already have to deal with the raiders grumbling that they didn't get enough loot or land for this war. If you are grumbling that the Westerlands could not provide you with enough wealth, then your men are the greediest I've ever seen. And yours are among the weakest, with how easily we've won. That's because we are the ones doing the real fighting. If your reavers somehow lost to fishwives and old cripples, then you would be a piss-poor ally. That's enough from the three of you. Save your anger for the real foes. Lord Tywin, surely you must see how your forces have gone so far. Your men are scattered, and more Westermen are in my army than yours. There is no point in drawing this bloodshed out further. You have fought honorably, my lord, but there is no shame in surrendering to a superior force, so I offer you terms. Descend that bluff, lay down your weapons, and bend the knee to your new overlord, and I shall pardon you and your entire family. Bend to you? To a fool whose only talent is convincing a naive boy to back his claim. And should I agree, what shall happen? Allow you, the young wolf, to continue plotting against me? Never. Besides, this lion still has claws, and they are as long and sharp as yours. Remember that. Then I wish you luck in the coming battles, Lord Tywin. I suggest you pray we do not meet.
Soon enough, the army begins its charge on the bluff. They do not need such complex tactics with overwhelming odds, yet the first assault is beaten back as Tywin orders his archers to rain down while his spearmen secure choke points. Backed up against the wall, the old lion fights with everything he has and cuts through men left and right. He shouts at his men defiantly, rallying them to keep fighting while directing soldiers where they are needed from the cliffside. Despite that, it only delays the inevitable, as Olyvar personally leads one of the charges and keeps his men fighting while Robb and Greywind loop around, looking for weak points. Finally, they spot one narrow passager but barely large enough for an unarmed man to pass through. Robb slips off his armor and takes a dozen trusted men with him to strike at the rear of another choke point. Once that place is taken, the rebels pour through. Olyvar is among the first to reach, as he rushes up to attack the Lannister headquarters. The whole camp descends into chaos. Men-at-arms rush through the tents, some slaying, others looting. With half of these men being former comrades, the camp descends into chaos as many do not even recognize friend from foe. Tywin tries to ride through them and rally whoever he can, but a stray spear takes his horse from underneath him, and without him, the rest of the army collapses into chaos. Most of the men throw their swords down, and others simply run away, but Tywin is dragged back to Lannisport, which yields to the rebels after its garrison mutinies and kills Sir Devon. They proclaim that House Lannister shall no longer rule, and Lord Tywin, who brought the Westerlands to near ruin, shall be punished for it with his life. Attending this event are Lady Amarei Tarbeck and Sir Olyvar Reyne, both of whom were too old to lead their army, and instead sent their grandchildren in their place. As Tywin is dragged onto the scaffolding, he is greeted by jeers from the crowd, with lords, small folk, and knights all hurling insults at him. Once they were cowed with fear, but now they see him as only a pariah. And as he marched up the streets, Lady Amarei smiles and gestures for the bards she's brought with her. One strums his lute and begins to play a new song she's had commissioned. The Lion Sleeps Tonight. And as she pushed against the block, Olyvar Reyne steps forward. Behind him, his aunt and uncle hobble forward and offer his grandson a long sword. Though decades old, the blade was carefully honed and oiled exactly for this moment. As Lord Olyvar takes it in his hand, he raises his sword over his head and brings it down. In a heartbeat, the resurgence of House Lannister is brought to a bloody end. With the last of their armies defeated in the Westerlands, only Kevan Lannister remains, and his position in Harrenhal grows increasingly untenable with Tywin's death. But now his men are openly deserting, deciding to flee back to the Westerlands despite his efforts to secure the neighboring castles. As they find their position collapsing, Kevan decides to abandon the Riverlands and tries to flee back to the Westerlands. However, with the Golden Tooth lost to him, instead he marches up north towards the Cape of Eagles to gather ships and sail there. But as his army leaves the safety of Harrenhal, the rest of the River Lords take action. Roose decides to march out from the Twins and moves to confront him. He sends letters to Houses Mallister to strengthen his case, while Ser Edmure attacks from the south, herding Kevan northward and preventing him from focusing on the threat north. The River Lords do not attack him in open battle, but send raiders to harass rearguard and not give them the chance to rest. Ser Edmure only attacks in force when Kevan looks like he's digging in to fight a defensive battle, so this forces him to keep moving and to focus on defending against the River Lords. That is until they reach Old Stones, where there are defensive positions amidst the ruins. This time, when Edmure tries to dislodge them, they are ready and drive them back. However, Roose Bolton has them where he wants them. Edmure continues to attack them, pounding their positions like a drum and giving them no chance to defend from the north until the second attacking force is right on top of them. Roose and Robert Glover lead the charge, ripping up the hastily placed palisades and wooden stakes while arrows rain down above them. Yet they are helped by someone else. Lyle Crakehall is charged with holding the northern portion of the ruins, but as he sees how badly things are coming, he orders his men to stand down and yield. Once a path is opened, the Northmen pour forward and surround Kevan Lannister. This charge is organized not by a Northman, but by one of Amarey's siblings, a brother named Dennis, who rallies the men and rushes through Kevan's guards. He personally cuts down 3 of his bodyguards and allows the rest of the men to surround and kill him. He tries to fight the attackers off, but this is a losing effort as he cannot help them all back, and soon he's surrounded and butchered. Soon the only surviving Westermen are those under Lyle Crakehall, who is allowed to surrender and return to the Westerlands. With the war won, Robb stands alongside Olyvar Reyne as they proclaim what the Lannisters deposed. A new ruler of the Westerlands must be selected, and he throws his full support behind Olyvar. The rest of the lords soon follow, not that they have much choice. Those who remain loyal to Tywin, like Sir Adam and Flemont, are both executed, while Sir Flemont takes his brother's place as Lord Hornvale. Sir Aemon and his entire family are disinherited. Most importantly, with the Lannisters defeated, they can at last turn their attention to their first and most important prisoner, Jaime Lannister. Olyvar and Dennis both insist that Jaime must die. So long as he lives, there will be a threat to their rule. With their blessing, Robb and his army return to Riverrun, where they find Jaime waiting for them. No one defends him as he's brought forth into the courtyard where Robb beheads him, just as Lord Tywin was killed by Olyvar. Yet while they celebrate their success, there is chaos in the capital, as the remaining Lannisters must deal with Stannis. While Tyrion has sent letters offering the Tyrells an alliance with the promise of making Margaery queen through a marriage pact. But after seeing Tywin's defeat in the Westerlands, they believe that the Lannisters have no chance of success and simply decide to cut their losses and refuse to join their alliance. Instead, they remain neutral, and without them, nothing stops Stannis from storming the capital and putting the royal family to death. Them along with the rest of the small council, who were replaced with men loyal to Stannis. The only ones spared are Tommen and Myrcella, due to their age, and Littlefinger, who was taken prisoner by the Tyrells. Now, Stannis settles into the Iron Throne and watches as the Tyrell delegation arrives, led by Lady Olenna, with Sir Garland and Loras flanking her as she regards the king with a smile.
Your Grace, the Tyrells serve as your humble servants, as we did your brother.
I should hope not, given how quickly you turned your back on my brother's wishes after he died.
And yet we remained loyal to Renly, despite how it no longer served our best interests.
I will grant you that, though that is a low bar. and it does not answer my question as to why I should trust you and not grant overlordship of the Reach to a house more loyal, like the Florence, perhaps.
If you are searching for loyalty amongst foxes, then it makes me question whether you truly are the wisest of the Baratheon brothers. You know they lack the strength and weight to keep the Reach together.
Then perhaps the High Towers, or the Red Ones. They are just as proud, just as powerful as your house.
And yet such a dramatic change will bring resentment from other houses. If you grant it to one house, the others will whisper among themselves, asking why they are not granted such an honor. That sort of anger breeds rebellion.
I am not afraid of the rocking boat.
Indeed. And that starts by changing those who are in power. And that is why we bring a peace offering. Lord Peter Baelish. He had attempted to recruit House Tyrell to serve the Lannisters, but we were convinced to remain loyal.
You have Littlefinger. Returning him will be appreciated by the crown.
Indeed. But, as I said, it is a peace offering. I will not hand him over until we have peace. We need assurances that we will not be deposed as soon as we hand him over, so that we may continue to serve loyally.
You wish to keep Highgarden? Fine. And your bannermen, so long as you keep them in line and remind them who they serve.
Begging your pardon, but if you want to ensure the loyalty of the Reach, it would be wise to offer more incentives. Your daughter is young, but she is of marriageable age. As it happens, I have 2 sons of marriageable age.
I will find a husband for my daughter, but I will not select one simply because of their name.
Then look at their accomplishments. The Knight of Flowers is considered one of the most promising fighters of his generation. Meanwhile, Willis Tyrell is famed for his wit, compassion, and wisdom. Surely you cannot deny that. I know what kind of man you are. You prize talent over name. Well, as it happens, many in the Reach have both. You lose nothing by selecting them.
And you gain everything.
But isn't it worth it for the good of the realm, even if the Reach profits off it? Besides, there is also the matter of the rest of the realm. Just how likely do you think Robb Stark or Olyvar Reyne is to surrender if you come with nothing less than a united front?
Stannis tenses, his jaw tightening and grinding together as he knows the threat when he hears it. And yet, he also knows he cannot argue. These terms are hammered out, and it's agreed that Shireen will marry Willis Tyrell, while Paxter Redwine is named Master of Ships. Mace is also made Master of Coins, though Olenna assures him that she will be the one actually handling the money. When that is agreed to, Stannis is happy to claim his reward, Lord Baelish, whose head he decapitates and grants Mace his seat, warning him not to be as foolish. But even as he brings peace in one region, Stannis must handle another. He first approaches Robb Stark and Olyvar Reyne. Oliver is easy. All he wants is recognition for his rule of the Westerlands, a rule that Stannis grants. He even offers him the chance to ward Tommen and Marcella. Robb is a bit more complicated. He insists on independence. Stannis is tempted to refuse him. His victory in King's Landing emboldened him. Yet Sir Davos cautions otherwise.
Do not forget, Your Grace. Your victory was only achieved because Lannisters could not march out and reinforce the city. In some ways, Robb Stark is responsible for your success. Certainly more than the Tyrells. Doesn't that mean that he's owed a greater reward?
Perhaps. But independence, that is too much to ask, especially for a service as indirect as this.
It is, I understand that. And yet, it is still the situation we found ourselves in. Consider it, and it shows we understand his values. It might allow us to secure favorable terms. Besides, better an honorable foe than a treacherous ally.
Stannis thinks long and hard, but agrees. However, demanding that Robb provide steep concessions. He must pay tribute to Stannis, accept him as the Lord of the Seven Kingdoms, and defend his claim if the situation arises. And in exchange, he will accept Robb's new kingdom and return Sansa Stark. The True Thorn is the Ironborn, whose raids and history make things complicated. While Robb might have had legitimate grievances against the Iron Throne, the Greyjoys rebelled from pure opportunism, and this disgusts Stannis. He will not accept their rule, not easily. The terms he demands are harsh, demanding that they cease all raids on the Seven Kingdoms, reduce the size of their fleet, and accept the same terms as Robb. To Balon, these terms are an insult. He had wished for an independent kingdom in order to return his people to the old way, and yet this will force them back into the thumb of the Iron Throne and unable to reeve. But in this situation, Robb is forced to side with Stannis, as does Lord Olyvar, who wishes to wash his hands of the alliance with the Greyjoys.
What treachery is this? It was only due to my fleet that these men could even go about calling themselves king. and how they wish to clip our sails from us in our time of victory. And for what? To appease the stags.
You act as if you were betrayed, and yet you gave exactly what you promised. You now have a kingdom to call your own, and the Fair Isles. I would consider that a victory.
It was a cop-out. We are owed so much more.
Owed? And what do you think we are owed, my lord? That we should be allowed to pillage and plunder their lands to our heart's content, while they simply bow and accept it? Is that how you picture your new kingdom? We tried that once and failed. Do not squander this chance at peace because your greed and pride overcomes you. If you insist on this path, then I shall not support you.
So it's treason then?
Perhaps, but say that without the Harlaws by your side. Do you think that Lord Blacktide has forgiven you for the loss of his father as well? Even Lord Goodbrother sees the need for change in our realm.
Balon curses this, but also sees he has no way of challenging them all, not without risking rebellion, so he bites his tongue and bows his head. Soon, House Greyjoy agrees to Stannis' terms, and many of their lesser longships are handed over as a gesture of goodwill. With the war over, the Reynes go about strengthening their hold over the Westerlands. Though they are officially declared Lord Paramount of the West, this is meaningless without something to back it up. Amarei is married off to Tommen Lannister, ensuring their claim to Casterly Rock and uniting them with the remaining Lannisters, whose name shall carry weights. This marriage is organized by none other than Lady Ellen. The woman is now in her 80s and requires a litter just to travel to her castle, but as she enters the halls of this ancient keep, she feels tears pricking her eyes as she, at last, accomplishes her goal. Soon enough, the halls fill with Westermen as thousands arrive to attend the wedding and reaffirm their support. Within the bowels of the keep, guards in red cloaks line the halls, replacing the Golden Army Lannister men-at-arms with Reynes knights. Meanwhile, food imported from Lannisport and singers from all across the Seven Kingdoms travel to take part in the celebration, which plays host to not one, but two kings, as both Stannis and Robb attend. Balon Greyjoy was invited as well, but the old Kraken prefers to sulk in his islands. As Amarei walks down the aisles, she is resplendent, bearing rich Lenese silks, dyed with the red lion of her mother's birthhouse and the silver and blue seven-pointed star. When Ellen sees this, she looks like the happiest woman in Westerlands. Still, Robb and Olyvar decide to maintain close ties, and they soon agree on another marriage between Dennis Tarbeck after he gains fame from his final charge that defeats Kevan Lannister. Robb finds the young knight gallant and kind, making him the perfect match for Sansa. The wedding takes place in the streets of Lannisport, where half the city turns up to attend the ceremony. The wedding is organized to resemble something like a fairy tale, just as Sansa imagined. With the skies filled with colorful silk banners, the women in the finest dresses, and the richest foods imported. Although she is still recovering from her torment by Joffrey, Sansa finds Dennis to be pleasant company. He acts patiently and is considerate of his new wife's state. For a time, it seems like everything in the realm is going well, as the Seven Kingdoms are now at peace. Robb and his army return home. Stannis begins consolidating his position, and the Reynes act as his new vassals. The Greyjoys, though isolated, maintain their side of the treaty. Theon is offered a position in Robb's court as Master of Ships, but instead decides to return home as he has the support of houses Harlock, Goodbrother, and Blacktide. Their coalition keeps Balon under control and ensures no one tries to bring the old ways back. Slowly, they instead begin allowing foreign experts into the Iron Islands to modernize their economy and infrastructure. While Balon fumes at this, he is not in a strong enough position to completely challenge them. But one day, several Ironborn ships appear off the coast of the Stony Shore. The Mormonts who see this ring the bells, calling for the small folk to gather. At first, many think this is a raiding party, and word is sent to the coastal lords in order to send reinforcements. As the first night arrives, they immediately realize that something is off. The ships are not racing towards the shore, but drifting, almost listlessly. Their sails are torn. Many of the vessels are damaged, yet their sigil is still clear through the ripped banner. House Greyjoy. As the first ship lands, archers notch their bows, but a white banner is flown. It is carried by Theon Greyjoy, who stumbles out. His eyes are wide, and there is a gash on his side. He's followed by Roderick the Reader and Lord Blacktide, demanding to speak to King Robb. The Ironborn are kept in custody, and word is sent to Robb. The king arrives by nightfall, leading an armored column. Theon rushes to his side and grips his old friend's shoulder.
Theon, what is going on? My father, he's dead. Murdered by my uncle. Your uncle? Did Victarion Greyjoy try to stage a coup? No, not him.
My other uncle, Euron. He came back from exile a day after my father died. They said my father fell off a bridge while walking on Pike, but Euron proclaimed himself king. He's promising to turn the Ironborn into a ravaging power once again. Many of the lords are rallying to his side. We tried to stop him, but he's already executed Lord Goodbrother for defying him.
Theon's full report begins to unfold, and the Northmen look at each other warily. There are talks of massive war fleets being constructed, consisting of new longships and a new iron fleet under the command of the Red Oarsmen. With that, they intend to raid the entire western coast of Westeros. There are even rumors that he has a fleet of ships hidden in the stepstones that he's claimed from his journey across Essos.
If that's the case, King Stannis must be informed as well. His fleet is the only one strong enough to defeat Euron. Not to mention his kingdom is also at risk of Euron's attacks. Send a raven to King's Landing. Theon, gather whatever ships you have. That's not a lot. I have 20 ships at most. For now, I will send you shipwrights from White Harbor to begin constructing ships along the Stony Shore. When Euron comes, he will find the North undefeated, and once we drive him back, we can begin planning to take your throne back.
Theon smiles, and the two men clasp hands, as it is like the early days of the War of the Five Kings all over again. Soon enough, Stannis responds by sending the Lannister and Redwyne fleets to confront him. The number is close to 150 ships and sails right for the Iron Islands, with an expeditionary force aimed at ending this threat before it begins. Robb also crushes the initial Ironborn raids on the coast and deploys Theon with another 50 ships. They all rendezvous in Iron Bay, where the army forces off against Euron's nearly 250 ships. The Red Oarsmen and Euron take most of their ships to confront Lord Reyne, while Lord Boltley checks Robb and Theon. Soon the battle turns the warning into a churning whirlpool as the first ships clash. The sound of splintering wood on bronze rams echoes across the entire Sunset Sea. Hundreds of ships break off into individual duels, with the sleeker longships darting between formations. Euron personally leads this charge, laughing as the Silence moves like a gazelle too fast for any ship to chase, while her scorpions needle slower war galleys. With their attention focused on the swifter squadron, the Red Oarsman roars and barrels into the galleys. Many sink in these initial chases, but others survive to be boarded. This proves to be a mistake, as Lord Reyne had ordered their warships to be packed with knights and men-at-arms, men whose job is to attack the Iron Islands. Now they swarm against the Ironborn and drive them back. In the north, Robb's own forces struggle against the Ironborn ships, who are both more numerous and experienced. It is only because Theon's naval skills that they manage to survive. When their initial wide formation fails, he opts for an arrowhead organization that pieces through their lines. Slowly but surely, the Ironborn begin to get driven back as superior numbers tell. The Silence barely avoids being trapped between two ships and sails back to the Ironborn lines. Yet, as he sees his fleet descending into chaos, he smiles and then orders the prisoners to be brought on deck. While Theon was able to escape, Asha and Aeron were not so lucky. With a single command, Euron has their throats cut and tosses their bodies into the sea. As their bloodied corpses float in the water, something begins to change. The Ironborn look out in surprise, seeing them disappear. But oddly enough, bubbles begin to form beneath the waves. They are few at first, but grow larger and more numerous by the moment. Some of the sailors begin to back up as the water rises in a wave. The oarsmen hurry and push the ship as a dark shape materializes beneath the sea. Silence barely clears this as a massive shape emerges from the water. Its head is scaly, resembling a dragon, but its body is a thing of nightmares. The beast ripples with silvery scales that seem to bend and reflect light, while thousands of strange appendages wriggle about its length, half tentacles, half hands. Euron chuckles and looks over at the prow. All of this was taken from a legend he'd recovered while raiding the Jade Sea, of strange sea monsters which lurk beneath the waves, things that would be the drowned god's bastard children. This particular one was called Shen. As men stare at it, his scales ripple and seemed to blend with the light, letting him almost disappear into thin air, with only a vague outline. Sailors cry out, wondering how such a massive creature could almost vanish right before their eyes. The fighting stops as they search for it, only for Shen to burst out of the water right under a massive war galley. It throws the ship into the air and leaves it falling into splinters. Cries to open fire go out, and men fire scorpions and wildfire, but most of these shots go wild. A few wildfire pots cause the creature's scale to steam and to hiss in pain, but it barely tickles it. Shen turns upon the fleet again, his massive form rippling across the water. As it passes ships, its appendages reach out and begin plucking men from the water, attacking both Ironborn and Royalists alike. Despite his size, Shen's reflective, strange scales leave men struggling to see him amidst the carnage. Suddenly, the battle descends further into chaos as the ships all hastily try to retreat, yet they are so close together that many vessels ram one another. For the sleeker Ironborn ships, this makes them perfect targets as they renew their attacks. From the north, they are not as heavily engaged by Shen, and Robb signals a retreat. His smaller fleet rushes through the chaos, urging any ships to rally around him. One of the first to reorganize is Lord Reyne, who pulls his galley aside from a melee and follows them. They pick up as many survivors as they can and sail south, leaving behind the churning ocean that soon runs red with blood for miles. Shen allows them to go, as he is too busy feasting upon the flesh of fallen sailors. They do not stop until they reach the arbor, where Stannis is waiting for them, having defeated the Celestials Euron sent against him. However, as he states the state of his fleet, his eyes widen, and then the reports that come in only cause his face to darken. A sea monster, a single beast, managed to devastate his armada so much, and yet he does not have time to take it all in, as reports soon arrive that this beast is already terrorizing the Seven Kingdoms. Without the fleet to stop them, the Ironborn attack unchecked, placing Seaguard under siege. Then Shen emerges along the town of Case, where its tentacles tear down its walls and drag the settlement underwater, leaving the Ironborn to take whatever is left. All across the coast, small folk and lords flee inland, abandoning it for the Ironborn, who press further inland. Many appear half-mad, raving stories about strange shapes in the water, things that should not appear to them. Aside from being a terrifying beast on its own, Shen's strange mirages only add to the chaos. The survivors gather around the arbor to plan their next move.
It is only a matter of time before Shen strikes again. He's already leveled most of the coastal towns in the Westerlands. Lannisport has barely held on. We cannot allow it to fall.
That is easier said than done. That thing. How does one even bring it down?
Our wildfire managed to injure it, but we can barely see it. Those scales make it almost invisible in the water. How do we strike it something we can't see?
Set the sea on fire. But it would take half a year to make enough wildfire for that.
I will not wait half a year to see that beast burn my homeland to the ground.
And that's assuming we are still around here to unleash it.
Then perhaps we can get some help. I can have Melisandre search for a spell that might be used.
I can find the spell, but all such things will come with a cost. Are you prepared to pay for it?
You know the answer. I will pay any price and bear any curse if it means saving my people.
With that, Robb and the others leave, along with Theon, Dennis, and Amarei. They try to do whatever they can to buy time. They strike at the Iron Islands, ambush small squads of longships, but avoid contact with Shen at all costs. Meanwhile, Stannis, Olyvar, and Melisandre look for the answers in their tomes. Each one contains ancient texts with dark words and darker demands. Yet the young lord plunges into them without fear. The only thing on his mind is the thought of his people under threat. He knows his aunt and uncle are in Casterly Rock, but will be too stubborn to leave. They will die for what they have won, and they will die. None of this stops him as he spends night after night looking for answers. Countless spells can prove devastating if they are used, things that will drive it back into the ocean, but each one comes at a terrible price.
You said you were willing to do whatever it takes to win. Are you prepared to put it to the test?
Always.
Very well then. Let us drive this monster back.
It isn't hard to find Shen, as they simply follow reports of the beast while the fleet sails out to confront them. The Ironborn are blockading Lannisport when they arrive, but the fleet doesn't even fully turn to face them. Stannis sends a squadron ahead of Dennis and Theon's command. They rush these smaller ships and open the battle up, but the king's attention is on the wooden stake being mounted on the deck of his warship. He glances at Olyvar, who stares at him solemnly.
Afraid?
Terrified, Your Grace. But what can be done about that? There is a price that must be paid.
Indeed.
Suddenly, the battle between these two squadrons is thrown into chaos as Shen's head pokes out from the water, knocking aside several vessels. Rather than back down, Stannis orders the remaining ships to advance. Instead of moving in a straight line, the king orders them to spread out like the wings of a bird to envelop them. Only his flagship and a select escort continues to advance. But as they approach, the crew hurriedly prepares the pyre for the coming battle. Several of the longships approach, getting ready to board as they try to fight them off. Stannis does not pay them any heed and casually places a few more logs. Meanwhile, Melisandre begins to utter prayers to the Lord of Light, her voice speaking in a different language that does not seem entirely human, while she's handed a torch. Lord Reyne steps forward onto the pyre, but then Stannis raises a hand.
Not you.
My lord? What do you mean?
I went to war to balance the scales and claim my crown. I have done that, but there is a price to be paid.
If you do this, then who will rule the Seven Kingdoms?
I can think of one person. Me?
Your Grace?
I admit, when I recognized you, I initially thought it would be just an alliance of convenience. And yet you've proven yourself as skilled a warrior and a good man.
But, Your Grace, you are still king.
I am. That is why I understand my duty. Not just to rule well, but to secure the future of the realm. The day I put my life above the realm is the day I am no longer fit to wear my crown. It needs a steady hand to be rebuilt and unite things. You've worked well with the Starks and the Greyjoy boy. That is the key to the Iron Throne's survival.
Your Grace, I am overwhelmed. You honor me with this trust.
I do not intend to honor you. The crown is a responsibility like any other. Young men like you think fighting and ruling are just the same. I was just like you when I was younger. I had a head full of fantasies of dying like a martyr. But let me tell you this, dying is easy, young man. Living is harder. Now go.
A longboat is prepared as the remaining crew prepares to escape, while their escort is ready to pick them up. Olyvar spares the king one last glance before following after them as Melisandre ties the king to the stakes and ignites the fires. Suddenly, Shen descends upon them and engulfs the entire ship. King and Red Woman in awe, but that success lasts only a moment as the dragon shudders, letting out a loud cough. For a moment, it seems like he is choking, but it is not that simple, as dark specks begin to form around its throat and grows larger, blossoming out around its neck and spreading across its body. The once bright scales turn dark as the creature gasps, his head flailing back and forth. But while it is distracted, Lord Reyne orders a full-scale attack on it. The ships circling them turn all their weapons upon it. Wildfire and ballista bolts explode across his body, leaving it bleeding from 100 wounds all at once. For the first time, they can see him and hit Shen properly. It shrieks, but Shen continues to fight. His tail thrashes and capsizes ships, while his appendages knock ships aside. More than a dozen fall, but more take their place, and a few larger ones begin to ram him, scraping against his body. One large ship rips through his side, and this is too much for Shen. The dragon has finally had enough and begins to descend back into the waters. Its injuries are severe enough that it can no longer fight and dips beneath the waves, leaving the Ironborn without their weapon. The entire royal fleet rushes forwards and falls upon the Ironborn, who now find themselves outmatched by the larger ships. Euron tries to flee, but they quickly surround him, and Euron soon joins his monster in the middle of the ocean. Although the western coast is devastated, it is not fully destroyed. As news arrives that Shen is defeated and Euron is dead, the small folk begin to return to their villages, cheering the fleet as it returns. And yet this victory is laced with grief, as they receive word of Stannis' death. Many mourn his death, but the power vacuum is not left vacant for long. Olyvar is proclaimed king, and Davos and the rest of the surviving crew of the flagship confirm Stannis' wish. To appease the Tyrells, he agrees to marry Marjorie, while keeping Shireen a member of his court. Meanwhile, the Iron Islands are too badly weakened to continue their independence. Once Theon reclaims his crown, he begins to take steps to reintegrate himself back into the Seven Kingdoms. That's our theory. Westeros is a land filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey across the Seven Kingdoms and beyond, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.